Well, for a more medical angle on the situation, let's go now to Professor Howard Amital, head of the coronavirus unit for moderately ill patients at the Sheba Medical Center. Thank you for joining us, Professor Amital. I just want to ask you, we've usually had on doctors who treat serious patients, and we know about those treatments, respirators, drugs like steroids and remdesivir. Moderately ill patients, how are they treated?
Good evening. So first of all, I wouldn't define our unit as moderately ill patients. We have moderate patients, severe patients. We have the entire spectrum. So this is a serious disease. And yes, we definitely do treat these patients with medications that people read nowadays in the media, with remdesivir, with steroids, with plasma of convalescent patients. So we have, as I mentioned, the entire spectrum, and we treat patients accordingly.
Right. And I'm curious, do you see any lingering effects? There's been growing concern that there might be even people who are, let's say, moderately or even asymptomatic may show symptoms. Have you seen anything of that over the course of now what has been a few months?
Yes, we definitely do see patients with, as I mentioned, with the entire spectrum. And these patients have been coming in since what was called the first wave of coronavirus. It is true that the numbers went down, but we're definitely seeing a very high, steep slope of patients coming in, and the numbers are growing.
Right. The numbers are growing. A lot of debate on what measures should be taken. I wanted to get some of your view. There is a sense, there are those who advocate return to strict lockdowns, something along the lines of what we saw in the, of course, first wave of the pandemic. And others say that, no, it has to be more limited or more targeted. I just want to get a sense of where you would fall on, for example, this debate on the spectrum here.
So, there's a large range in the so-called lockdowns. As I heard the end of the talk of the Knesset member, Naftali Bennett, and I think he's partially right. I mean, you can't close the entire market and lock down not only the different economical aspects of the country, but also the social aspects of the country. You need to be more targeted, as you mentioned. I mean, there's a big difference between seeing thousands of Israelis at the beach on Saturdays spreading the virus and locking down the entire market. There is a range between the white and black. There's a lot of gray in the middle, and we need to take that into account and decide in a wise manner what to do. Now, I don't think that it's anyone's fault that we opened up too fast, because everybody was optimistic. I mean, in retrospect, we're all wise and smart, but there are things that we can learn. And definitely we need to avoid crowds, all these large demonstrations where thousands crowd up together. This is dangerous. So we have to treat everything wisely. And I think this is a major issue. Target the proper aims and prevent from pulling an entire lockdown, which has very misfortunate outcomes.
Right. I just want to ask you, getting back to your work, we hear anecdotally that those being infected are now more younger people than we saw in the first wave. Maybe that more elderly people are taking greater care. Is that what you're seeing there at your ward in Sheba?
Yes, we do see more young people that are addressing the ERs all over the country. I think it's the mechanism of spread this time, because if you remember, initially the virus spread through parties during Purim and during Pesach, and now it's more the effects of opening up. But we should be aware that the young people today might infect their parents, their grandparents. So I wouldn't be too optimistic, and we have to be very cautious regarding what will happen in the future.
Right. It's certainly that number of daily cases exceeding now over 2,000 new infections. That is a worrying number that, of course, could just exponentially grow. Professor Howard Amital of the Sheba Medical Center, thank you for joining us on The Rundown.